The moment where she licks her finger, like, what is up, beautiful people? My name is Jenna, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. I'm queer, I'm a filmmaker, I talk about film and TV, and I make film and TV. And that's what you need to know for this video, because today I am reacting to spicy, queer sex scenes. Spicy scenes in television specifically today, and I'm reacting to them not only as a filmmaker, someone who writes and directs, but also someone who has recently become an intimacy coordinator. Now, what is an intimacy coordinator, you might ask? Well, SAG-AFTRA, which is the Actors Union, defines an intimacy coordinator as an advocate, a liaison between actors and production in regards to nudity and simulated sex. So as an intimacy coordinator, I help to coordinate and choreograph intimate scenes. I help monitor closed sets, and I work with the costume departments on modesty garments and barriers. I know for a fact that the shows that I'm going to be reacting to utilized intimacy coordinators for those scenes, and that's how I found out about it, from working as a production assistant. Watch one of my last videos if you want to hear me talk about my experience as production assistant. But yeah, I'm going to talk specifically more about this over on my Patreon that I just launched, which I'm really excited about. There's bonus content from every single video, along with live streams, Google Zoom meets, and then a bunch of like really specific industry behind the scenes stuff that I'm talking about over on my Patreon, so be sure to go check that out. There's going to be a lot of content, additional content from this video, including me talking about kind of how I became an intimacy coordinator. But let's get into the spicy content, y'all. I am so excited to react to these queer love scenes. These scenes I chose specifically because they feel very queer, they feel very authentic, and that's something that didn't exist for a very long time, it felt like. And before we get into the reactions, I wanted to thank Lilo for sponsoring this video. Lilo is a luxury sexual wellness brand navigating the world of sex toys in a tasteful way. They are all about breaking down the taboo and removing the stigma surrounding sexual pleasure through education and collaboration. So Lilo sent me some goodies, which I'm really excited about. This is the Tiani 3. Take a little peek. It's a two-parter. This is the remote. So chic, so cute. And then this is the vibe. So the Tiani 3 is designed to be a couple's toy. So basically this is for a person with a vagina. This goes on the inside. It's like a really skinny, really flexible arm. And then this goes on the outside, and this is like the hefty vibrator part, and it is remote controlled by this here remote. Obviously, you could totally also use this by yourself because the hands-free thing is always kind of fun. So this is designed so that you can use this for penetration, since this is skinny enough on the inside part of you that whether it was a finger or another part of someone's body inside of you, they would feel that. You can use it for penetration, or you can use it between two peoples, because you don't have to be fumbling with the actual sex toy itself. Be sure to check out the link in my description for all of the Lilo goods. Be sure to get yourself some. The idea of using a partnered sex toy to kind of like spice things up or bring something different to your experience is very in line with what I'm talking about in this video, which is just like realizing through education and authentic queer storytelling the broad ranges of experiences that you can have as a queer person in your sex life that like maybe you never thought of before or you weren't exposed to. And pleasure is not a luxury, it is essential to our well-being. A happy, healthy sex life is your human right. Intimacy deserves to be safe, sexy, and healthy, whether you're watching it on screen, facilitated by intimacy coordinators, or experiencing it in your own life with yourself or with a partner. So yeah, be sure to check out the link in the description to get some of your own Lilo products. I really stand by their mission. Let's watch some lesbian love, shall we? Like I said, I'm gonna show what I can, but obviously, for obvious reasons, I can't show everything that I'm reacting to, but I will link it or tell you what episode. I also chose scenes that came out within the past year or two. So these aren't like of all time, these are in the past year or two, but I feel like that also makes them of all time because they're better than they used to be. And this especially goes for the first show that I'm going to talk about, which is the L Word Gen Q. So starting off with a really good one, I want to talk about the Alice, Nat, and Gigi threesome scene. Ugh. But like, my jaw dropped when I saw this for the first time. Like, something about it, like, obviously it's a beautiful scene, but the fact that something like this feels like women desire from women, like, behind the camera, rather than them feeling like subjects that are being objectified and being watched. Like, you feel their desire, I feel like. And from an intimacy coordinator perspective, this was most likely a rather challenging scene to film. And so obviously an important disclaimer is that in TV shows and movies, all of the sex is simulated. So you're not watching people actually have sex, and actually a big part of being an intimacy coordinator is deloading and desexualizing that process for the actors. So we're not asking actors to call upon the time that they had a threesome. We're trying to take their personal experience as far out of it as possible because they're at work and they're doing a job. Moving on, I had to include the very first scene of the very first episode of Gen Q of the first season, and it is a scene between Sophie and Danny. I feel like it is so important to see bodies that are not white, are not stick thin. Like, this is a very vulnerable scene. So something like this, when you have a scene of oral, there are barriers so that the actors aren't exchanging bodily fluids, as well as modesty garments that are hiding just the look. And my favorite thing about it is that it involves period sex. We are seeing the blood. We are talking about a queer experience. And that feels so real, and in a way that is still really, like, representative and, like, sexy. Like, period blood can obviously be sexy, and, like, we are so taught to be ashamed of that part of ourselves, so seeing it glorified right off the bat, it's like, you know what kind of show this is going to be. You know that we're not just going to see white bodies, thin bodies, cis bodies, able bodies, you know what I mean? Moving on, we have a Sophie and Finley scene, which is Sophie's first time having sober sex, which is why I wanted to talk about this one specifically. Like, you can feel the intimacy here that goes beyond just the sex acts, you know what I mean? Talking about, you smell so good, and, like, her nose on her neck, and these little moments, like, this is intimacy. The fact that they're including, like, this laughter and it being so lighthearted is a really good change of pace from just being hot and heavy. Like, it doesn't always have to be hot and heavy. It can be fun, it can be giggly, and incorporating these kinds of things into intimate scenes, I think, is so important. Moving on to season 2, you know I couldn't forget Bet and Pippa in the art gallery. My God. The moment where she licks her finger, like, that, and, like, the silhouettes, like, this just really is beautiful, and shows, you know, the intimacy in, like, these close-ups and in their faces, and in ways that aren't just, like, it doesn't feel male gazy. We're not looking at their body parts. We're in the heat of the moment with them. We're close up. It's in the gazes. It's in the noises. It's so intimate, so close up. And then you end with this shot looking down at their bodies, like, in this silhouette. And, like, that's the first time that we're seeing their actual bodies, because we didn't need to see that to get how sexy the scene was, you know? Moving on to the groundbreaking scene between Micah and Maribel. This is also on YouTube. So fantastic. I feel so lucky to see this scene on my television and to have gotten to, like, witness something like this, and I really hope that there are more scenes like this, more content like this, showing the diversity of sexual experiences that people can have. It is just beautiful that we're seeing more people's experiences. Moving on to another hot topic show, we've got Euphoria, Root and Jules. You know, personally, I really feel like Root and Jules got done so dirty in terms of the representation of their sex life, but I guess they let us see exactly what they want to. In this first scene, at least, like, we see that desire, and just, like, the kind of unsureness of queer, you know, first queer relationships, which I think is really relatable. Now this scene, Rue is high and Jules is going down on her, and Rue can't feel anything. I wish they had better than this, but from an intimacy coordinator perspective, I think it's really effective showing Jules' head under the covers, because then in terms of, like, movements and using, like, her hands on Rue's body, we really can, like, do a lot more, I think, than if we did see Jules' face. And the dialogue is so funny. This is framed so that we feel like we are in Rue's perspective. You know, we are like as close to being in her perspective as we could be without being like literally in her head, which is supposed to feel uncomfortable and also really intimate. Let's talk about Elite in this chocolate scene. Okay, it is so, I love Elite. I love this like femme lesbian representation. The show makes me feel seen. This is what I was talking about like exploring the possibilities of queer sex, and like we get to have fun too, and it not be for anyone but ourselves. But like this scene, the chocolate everywhere, it's visually beautiful, the lighting is beautiful, it's beautiful, and it just like is so raw and pure. Chef's freaking kiss. And like the hands, like there are so many parts of these queer just like giggling with your girlfriend. Oh, I love it. All right, another one of my favorite